Good morning. Hi, Amplified. We're doing something a little different that I don't think we've done yet, where we've got two folks
Go sit with
at
two.
once. We do have our children with us, so they may be coming in and adding their 2 cents as well. So we're going to wait for somebody to log on up. Somebody's on. Alrighty, so we're going to...
That's me. I'm watching from our other phone. I'm the other.
We're going to
I wanted to
read...
make sure the light was right.
We're going to read the chapter, and we're going to go ahead and get on in. Okay.
All right, so we're doing Titus 2, and we're doing it out of the Complete Jewish Bible. All right. Titus 2. But you explain what kind of behavior goes along with sound teaching. Tell the older men to be serious, sensible, self-controlled, and sound in their trust, love, and perseverance. Do we want to read the whole thing through, or just take the verses as you have? Read the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Likewise, tell the older women to behave the way people leading a holy life should. They shouldn't be slanderers or slaves to excessive drinking.
Jewish.
They should teach what is good, thus training the younger women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled and pure, to take good care of their homes and submit to their husbands. In this way, God's message will not be brought into disgrace. Similarly, urge the young men to be self-controlled, and in everything set them an example. Set them an example yourself by doing what is good. When you are teaching, have integrity and be serious. Let everything you say be so wholesome that an opponent will be put to shame because he will have nothing bad to say about us. Tell slaves to submit to their masters in everything, to give satisfaction without talking back or pilfering. On the contrary, they should demonstrate complete faithfulness always, so that in every way they will make the teaching about God our deliverer more attractive. For God's grace, which brings deliverance, has appeared to all people. It teaches us to renounce godlessness and worldly pleasures, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives now, in this age, while continuing to expect the blessed fulfillment of our certain hope, which is the appearing of the Shekinah of our great God and the appearing of our deliverer, Yeshua the Messiah. He gave himself up on our behalf in order to free us from all violation of Torah and purify for himself a people who would be his own, eager to do good. These are the things you should say. Encourage and rebuke with full authority. Don't let anyone look down on you.
So good morning. We've got Victor and Hannah and Zizi and Miss Quigley. Welcome, you guys. So something that was interesting to me about this chapter was, Paul's written a lot of letters to a lot of different folks, but it seems like this is the bones of what's kind of been in most of the letters. Like this is the way to behave. This is the way to act. So some of the things, and definitely write in if you guys have anything. That's we feed off of that very much.
So we can argue. We
love to argue, right? Our behavior and our actions are actually physical manifestations of our heart. So since he has sent his Spirit to come and abide in us, we should be living and teaching out of the abundance of that Spirit. I felt like Jesus had set us free, so we are capable of leading lives worth following, like Paul was able to say, "Follow me as I follow Christ." Are we able to invite a stranger into our lives that we would be able to disciple, someone to walk with us the way that the 12 walked with Jesus? Are there things in our lives that don't line up with the clear representation of the Word? And are we willing to lay those things down? Or are we living a life right now that is what we could say, yes, a stranger would know Jesus by the way that I'm living my life, the way that I'm treating others, the way that I'm completely submitted to Him. I hope. That's my goal. And
I think one of the things that we had talked about too is the way that we're stewarding every aspect of our life. If somebody, when you go to a new school and you're checking out a new school and you shadow somebody, It's kind of like if somebody who didn't know who our God was to shadow us in our daily life, would they come away knowing the living God? Maybe not necessarily in one day, but they would know this person is living by a standard that they had not yet experienced or seen in the world that they had lived in outside of somebody serving the living God. Through the way we steward our time throughout the day, the way that we steward our words, like James talks about, keeping our tongue in line. Would they see a perfect man? James says anybody who tames the tongue has become a perfect person. So even if we keep our tongue in check, the way that we treat those on the street, the way that we treat those in our family, the way that we are grateful and thankful. I mean, all these things, Paul's talking about repeatedly in each of his letters to different people, like we read Timothy last week, and now we're in Titus, different places. Is there a linear way to see who we are because of the way that we're serving our living God, not a dead God?
In the verse 11 through 13, it says, "For God's grace which brings deliverance." I liked this translation a lot. Usually I don't do my teachings out of it. I do it out of the NIV, but I just really liked the words that they were using. It just felt for this chapter to me like a little more clear as to what maybe Paul was trying to say. So it says, "For God's grace which brings deliverance has appeared to all people. It teaches us to renounce godlessness and worldly pleasures and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives now in this age." So he has given us everything that we need. He has delivered us from living in a way that causes people to fall because of us. So he is faithful to help us submit, and his convictions are actually pure life. And we must start to see that nothing is worth holding on to if he wants us to let it go. It will actually bring death or stagnancy in the things and the areas that he wants us to grow in. We had talked about the idea of the stick, like holding on to, having your hands.
In John, when John is speaking about the pruning, that God prunes us, and this is kind of a side note, but when he's talking about the pruning, and the washing of the word there even, and then, if God is trying to prune something off of us, which will in time bring life, at first it's a cutting, but if we're grabbing the cutting that God is trying to take off and holding it in our hand, we're just holding dead stuff that he has chosen to want to take off so that new life and growth can come out of that place. So it's really living in an open hand scenario, not holding anything too tightly. That verse that Job says comes to mind. God, you give and you take away. If I'm going to be holding on to the things that I know or I had thought you blessed me with, which may be true for a time, but when it's time to let that thing go for new growth, it can be painful and startling. But that's what this empowering that you're talking about, the empowering to live moving forward and to live upright.
Right. So then let's get into that verse 1. I felt like what I was getting off of that was the best way to lead is by our example. The older men should be serious, sensible, self-controlled, and sound in their trust, love, and perseverance. And I said, if the gospel is not active in the lives of our teachers, then you can tell by their fruit. Their character and actions would not line up with what Paul is calling us into. We need to be seeking wisdom from the Lord as to who we should be allowing to speak into our lives. We don't want our lives shaped by just anybody. I think of the potter and the clay, how we are clay. And if we're not allowing God to be the one to do that, who are we allowing to mold us and to shape us? So it's very important that we have good teachers and sound teachers, and that the fruit that they're producing is good fruit. What's Hannah saying? That language really is good. Deliverance is such a powerful word. It stirs me up, like when you have known something to be true, but have real revelation. That truth is then loved and lived. That's good, Hannah. I'm glad you're here.
But you're not here.
But you're here. It's so important to have good teachers and trainers. Having a trainer encouraging you makes you push harder, helps to remind you of your goal, and gives you an opportunity. You lost it. We lost it for a minute. Sorry. So it gives you an opportunity to accomplish your goal. Through good training, we develop more endurance, and the task becomes easier because we've trained so hard. I know that Larry has been talking about going and having Xavier and this group. And there's something definitely having a group of people who are being led by somebody who knows what they're doing and knows what they're talking about. It really is awesome, I've been going as well, and
I have been going too.
We've been going to work out a little bit, and I was even at a cycling class yesterday where it was just like, there's 15 people there, but everybody game is up a little bit higher because they know everybody in the room is watching them, and it becomes kind of like but at the same time it's like we're a team and we're gonna make it, and it's having somebody constantly there just saying go harder, push, and we've been talking about the steadying, being steady, being steadfast, and I think that is so 100% right. But at the same time, it's like you become steady so that when you're called to do other things, there's not a first having to figure out if you can. You've already become steady so that then when they say, go harder, you can already start from a spot that is prepared for that.
Juniper,
so,
can we get Jasper, please? Thank you.
So also what Leah was talking about yesterday, having those seasoned Christians for counsel and friendship is so imperative in our growth and fulfilling a part of their walk as well. It's a win-win situation there, I think.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about...
this is your accountability.
Oh, we're on to accountability already? Get ready.
This is what...
This isn't where I was going to go yet, but...
Oh, well, you can go wherever you want.
No, that's cool. I mean, I love the stuff that Paul is telling Titus and Timothy, and these younger fellas in the faith, but who have been given authority and they've been charged to lead a region. I didn't hear yesterday's teaching, but I know the thing that I've read it a few times, looking about Paul is quoting the understanding that the folks on Crete are less than, according to especially Jewish tradition, as far as the way of being steadfast and watching their own diet and morality and these things. But these guys, Titus, Timothy, younger guys, are being charged with teaching older fellas or encouraging older fellas. And I think a lot of the stuff that we've lost in, at least America, I can say as far as a tradesman, being a contractor, it's a very rare thing to find somebody my age who has done an apprenticeship under anybody, especially in Florida, where we're a right-to-work state. There is not a value on mentorship win-win situation. Heather loves to throw that in every time. She married me just because of my last name. My good looks were just a bonus. But the mentorship thing to me is a huge deal that I think Paul is laying out here. And even though he's telling these younger fellas, Timothy and Titus, hey, you're in charge, like go and do this. But the way that he's saying to implement a strong foundation for the next guys coming up is, hey, go charge the older fellas. Your job isn't done. Mm-hmm. We need you. It's so vital that a community has generational lineages or generational lines to look at and say, you know what? They didn't just retire and clock out and they were done. Retirement is not a biblical
Took vacations and
yeah, I mean, you know, it's we all have to be full time all the time for our kids and those coming, you know, underneath them. And that's kind of the part of having a team too. You know, like when we're going to work out or whatever, having a team is motivational, you know. I mean, you know, we're part of the Y out here in Lake County, and this isn't a young metropolitan area. You know, Heather goes like every day to these classes, and she's probably half the age of the majority of the folks in there, and they love having her, and she loves having them. Yeah. Because it's encouraging, you know. It's like, oh man, you know what? We don't have to get sick at 70 years old. We don't have to get sick and die at 60. We can choose to do that, and we see that in the body too. You know,
that's
with
also the stewarding. You know,
exactly.
It goes back to the stewarding of these vessels that God's given us.
Absolutely.
You know, I think it's.
But we can say that in the body of Christ too. I mean, that's the thing to me about the verse. You know, do not forsake the assembly. It's not because you have to check in. It's not this, even, you know, going to what Leah was talking about, and you know, you had talked about a lot too with the Cain and Abel thing that she was talking about on Sunday. You know, there isn't this, if it's looked at as a duty and I want to just do my own thing, but I'll still go to church on Sunday, but good luck keeping me there past an hour and 15 minutes, then, you know, you got out of it what you put into it. But if we're showing up to have life, and we're continuing that throughout the week, that is how we stay strong. That is God hemming us in. It says He hems us in and He's our protection. He hems us in by saying, hey, get with the group. Like Solomon saying, don't walk down that road where the prostitutes live. Why take yourself out of the hemming and the wisdom of God? Hem yourself in by staying with a group. You know? All right, that's my 5-minute rant there.
What's easy saying? As a Western society, we haven't really received the revelation of being at rest. Jesus did all the things that he did, miracles, signs, and wonders, all at rest. There's aspects of being...
Oh, don't hit the button.
I'm hitting the button.
Okay.
There's aspects of being a complete stride and doing and still being at rest. Yeah, it's partnership. It's being yoked to the one who is alive and always working. But it is always,
We had something here before that I thought was good about.
Yeah.
Like the way that you mentioned, while we remain in Christ.
It was from Cindy
yes. While we remain in Christ, it prevents us from being pulled back into the world as long as we continue to press into Him by reading the Word, sitting under godly teachers, and surrounding ourselves with like-minded people. Our witness becomes brighter and more powerful and effective. Yeah, I guess it's cutting off the end of our things here because we're not reading them quick enough.
Yeah.
Sorry. But those are good points. And then Victor's talking about mentorship. I mean, the mentorship thing too is submitting our supposed thoughts of knowing it to somebody else who's actually walked it. You know, and that really opens us up, or opens us up to receiving more. You know, if it's that hands open thing again, like we were talking about, even when the Lord is pruning us. You know, God, I think that what you've given me is enough, and He says, nope, there's more coming. Let me cut that off to give you more room. Let me cut that off to take the needed resources to keep that thing living. You don't need those resources diverted there anymore. You need them put back into the root system or put out to this other thing. And that's what a good mentor can help us see as well, like Paul is doing with Titus and Timothy here.
Yeah. So
cool. Yeah, we can, because I'm sticking on this.
The verse 3, the women are called to lead a holy life. I was considering that as holy with the WH, the holy life, to be fully engaged and filled to overflow with His Spirit, that we would not be slanderers. And I was looking up, as I always do, the word slanderer, which is a fault finder and a detractor. And I was thinking anything that would detract away from Jesus in our life. You know, I don't want to be a detractor of of the call and of the gospel. So the synonyms are also a disputer, a doubter, a complainer, a worrier. So that's kind of what he's talking about there, not to be slanderers. And I once again just thought of that trainer mentality that pushes us and pushes others to be their best, like bolstering other women and men and praying in the desires of the Father's heart, that we would remain in the Word, pure in heart, and steadfast in seeking out His will. It also talks about the being slaves to excessive drinking. That was another one in this translation that I was just like, wow. The other one was like, don't be addicted to too much wine or things like that. But I thought, slave, that is a word, which I think, it's clear as to why we're not supposed to be slaves to excessive drinking. But I also was thinking how today we've got a lot more opportunity, it seems, to become slaves to other things. Facebook, to TV shows, to shopping, to many, many different things. So it's just stuff that's keeping ourselves entertained and distracted.
Our appearance. I mean, that's even the heart thing of, okay, are we working out to be good stewards of our vessels for long life, for longevity and vitality, to show, those around us, I care what God has given me and I'm going to steward it well? Or are we focusing on, look at my hot bod, I mean, there's so much of this stuff is the heart issue and what is God calling us into.
Right.
And then, of course, there are foundational truths like don't be a drunkard, don't be a glutton, don't be a slanderer.
Yeah. So it was keeping ourselves from being distracted, then stewarding our time training up the next generation, like you were talking about with the mentorship. There's a little bit more of that in here. I was having like how so many youths today are growing up without training. They're being trained up through Snapchat or through Facebook or through Instagram or from celebrity TV shows. And unfortunately, they're finding their identity and doctrines from friends or celebrities or just random people in the world, It's our job to help them find their true identity in Christ and not the opinions of others or the number of likes they have on their page or on their posts. We need to know His Word. We need to teach His Word, and we need to live His Word. That we and our loved ones would not be deceived and become slaves to anything. There's other scriptures that say you can't be slaves to two masters. So if we're allowing something to come before God in our lives, then we are way out of order because we are no longer, you can't have two masters. It says it. So let's not be slaves to anything other than Christ. He gave Himself, in verse 14, He gave Himself up on our behalf in order to free us from all violation of Torah and purify for Himself a people who would be His own, eager to do good. This isn't just, that'll be good sometimes. It's like that desire is to be pleasing. The desire, this eagerness to follow what is in these letters, to say, yes, I want to be self-controlled. Yes, I want to be sensible. Yes, I want to be pure. And I want to train up the next generation in these ways. We can't afford to be hypocrites. The church has had a bad rap. Woo, loud screaming. The do as I say, not as I do idea is so prevalent, unfortunately, in our church. And this letter is saying, no, it's not do as I say, not as I do. It is follow me as I follow Christ. We have to lay the stuff down, and we have to take on, the role of Christ on earth. That's our call. That is our job. Let's see what Nate's saying. I think that's why it's good to have great mentors that are willing to say the tough things to the next generation. It's so easy to get distracted and absorbed in this world without even realizing. The mentor that's walked through this life already has clear vision of the traps and snares around us. Yeah. And I also think sometimes we also, instead of trying to train the next generation, we're still like in this land of like, I don't know what God's called me to. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I just haven't felt like, and I think it's just so useless. It's kind of useless waste of time. We need to just recognize that He's got everyday life for us to be living, encouraging, and breathing life into things. That's what we're called to do. We're called to walk out what Jesus wants on this earth. So let's not get so caught up in our stuff, but see where we can be helpers in other people's stuff. Building the community to be able to sustain everybody. Right? Jordan Wynn.
What?
Do you have anything else?
That's good.
I mean that's kind of a lot of random stuff kind of out of
but I mean, we've kind of read, I thought something that when we were first studying about this, I was like, man, why is Paul okay, all scriptures God breathed and useful for XYZ, instruction, correction, teaching. And but one thing that Heather was saying when we were first looking at this stuff was, I was saying, why is this continuing? Why is this book in here again? It doesn't seem like there's anything new in what Paul's writing to Titus than we could have gotten from Ephesians, from Romans, from Timothy, from these other things. And granted, it was a letter to Titus, so I get that. But why is it in our canon? And something that Heather said when we were first talking about this was, it shows the universal need. Paul wasn't writing this only to one group. He didn't write this to only one crew saying, hey, do this. This is important for every believer, in every culture, in every civilization, at all times. And I had never thought about that. I was struck by that, thinking, yeah, we are all individuals. God is so distinctly different to each of us, and yet He is the same all the time, but He meets us in our own way. Kind of this, I think last time when I spoke, I used the word situational. And I think that's right. God is situational in that every situation He has allowed, and then He meets us in that situation. Whether we see it terribly or not, He says all things work together for the good of those who love Him or are according to His purpose, right? And so in reading this, it's like, why is he saying this again? What can we get out of this? And the thing, is this is important for all of us all the time. Mm-hmm. Don't shirk this. Mm-hmm. If we throw some of this off, we do it to our own detriment. That's right. And that's not living the gospel. That's right. The gospel is full-time all the time. And it's not our works 100% all the time. It's His works 100% all the time, and us leaning into it, us submitting to it, us choosing to stay in the yoke with Him. We're going to wear a yoke one way or another. He says, join my yoke, because my yoke is easy. My burden is light. We've got a yoke, we've got a burden. May as well get in the one that He's already carrying. Just saddle up next to Him. And I had some stuff on Ephesians, but I know we're coming to the end of the time. Just hit me up on Snapchat, and I'll YouTube some stuff.
Hit him up on Snapchat.
Yeah, no, I don't know what that is. But thanks, Leah, for letting us try a tandem thing. It seems like we were much more conversational, and we may not have given a lot of room for comments, so sorry about that. We'll work it out and figure out a way to do it, but this is good. It's good to get up and do it, just like exercising. We're getting up and making time and committing to the Spirit. Hey, grow me, stretch me. And so we bless you, we love you, thank you, and we'll see you soon. I don't know how to... Oh, here we go.